Kayla Simone.
Yo, what's going
What it
on,
do? What it do?
Chief?
I'm coming from an undisclosed location.
Hmm. Okay, Batman.
Batman? No, I am Superman.
Or Black Adam.
Ah, oh, I cannot wait to see that.
How will DC redeem
The
itself?
previews look amazing.
They do look good.
So I don't know. I'm gonna check that out. Maybe we can on our next Chiefs chat we can talk about Black Adam
I need to
and
go see it.
Wakanda Forever is coming out. I'm starting to get
Yes.
hyped about that.
Yeah.
And starting to see some of the previews. The young girl from MIT that is going to be the Iron Maiden. Oh my goodness.
Which I'm kind of conflicted about that because do they really need to get a girl from MIT when the sister from Black Panther is already a genius? I'm just saying.
But look, you got two African queens that are really going to be running the franchise now. So it's
Facts.
kind of exciting, kind of exciting.
Facts.
So,
Facts.
because, I mean, you know me, I'm an Iron Man fan to my heart.
I cried during Endgame, so for those of y'all who don't know, we are Marvel fanatics, okay?
Yes,
Like
yes.
since Iron Man first came out, well, actually, even before then, we were always watching Batman movies together, and
Which is
then
DC. We know the
that's
difference.
DC Comics. But when Iron Man first came out and the MCU first started, my dad took me, and every year up until I got into college, where I was away at school,
Yeah,
every year, whatever released, because at the time it was like one movie a year that they were releasing. They weren't
right.
releasing all of these different movies, but the MCU has grown so much. So, yeah, we're nerds.
So are they
We're
doing
nerds.
much though in the MCU lately? What you think?
Are they doing too much?
Are they doing too much? I
So I don't
Phase
know.
four still has not hit me the way I'm waiting for it to. So I'm
Yeah,
hoping that Wakanda Forever would do it for me. I
yeah.
mean, because number one, to replace
Chadwick is going to be a little.
Wakanda Forever,
People are probably going to start crying at the credits, to be honest.
probably so, because
Um.
they probably gonna have some dope tribute to
Oh
Chadwick.
yeah. Oh yeah. Of
They
course.
have to. They have to. I mean, he single handedly like made that character. Even
Hmm.
with his history and everything,
Yep.
to see it come to life and the pride that it brought to Black and Brown people,
Hmm.
shows representation matters. Even though we ain't trying to be super serious about that, but
Yeah.
it matters. Even superheroes, even
Yeah.
little black kids and
You
girls, they
know
want
what's
to grow up to
funny?
be super something.
I've also heard and most people are probably not comic fans, but I've also heard people when Black Panther first came out kind of critique Marvel a little bit and say, "Oh, they're pandering to a certain community." I'm like, absolutely not. This comic was written back in the
Oh,
'60s,
in the '60s,
so
right? If you
I
know the
don't.
history.
They're not pandering to anybody. It's an actual character. They didn't just develop this character overnight, and most of these characers they didn't just develop. But if you
And
go back and
if you
read,
look at the history of Marvel as well, and some of
hmm
it you can see on the Disney Channel. And we're not advertised for Marvel or the Disney Channel,
no,
although
I wish.
they want to
If you
sponsor
want to
us.
sponsor us, let us know.
Hey, no, but seriously, Stan Lee, the late Stan Lee, who's really the godfather of the MCU.
Hmm.
He had a serious commitment to diversity, to gender
Hmm.
equity,
Hmm.
and they've always tried to model characters that are more reflective of society and it
Hmm.
shows respect. So it's nothing new. It may be new to people that's new to the MCU, but if you know Marvel's history, that has been a part of their ethos, which is why I love.
Which is why they
Uh,
have the Miles Morales, they
yeah,
have the Spider Verse. They're going into the multiverse because really,
exactly.
it's like they have untapped potential with the amount of characters that can
Untapped
bring
potential.
the Hulk
Untapped.
verse.
I know. So they got to get
Okay,
Hulk right though in the next one. I
yeah,
hope.
because the all of them were trash.
Yeah,
All of them were
all
trash.
the Hulk standalones. Now,
Hmm.
Mark Ruffalo has
Yeah,
been
Mark
a
Ruffalo is
beast,
amazing. Yeah.
in his parts as the
Hmm.
Hulk, but he hasn't had a standalone
Even me being
franchise.
disappointed in the way he was in Endgame, I still
Yeah,
love him.
I know.
Like, it
They
doesn't
they
change
kind of
him.
they kind of punked the Hulk out, so
They did. I
got
didn't
to
like
make a
it.
big comeback. But speaking of disappointments,
Here we
uh,
go.
we got to talk about this, Kayla,
Hmm.
and we want to do it very tenderly because I want to first preface this by saying uh, any type of conversation or language that demeans a group of people by race, by
Hmm.
gender, by ethnicity. It is absolutely aberrant
Not okay.
behavior.
Hmm.
But to give context to what you and I talked about, and we got to talk about it, the guy formerly known as Kanye,
Yeah.
legally known as Ye, is stirring the pot a lot. And, a lot of people think that Kanye is crazy. I think he's crazy like a fox. So I'm going to
Hmm.
give you an anecdote that your granddaddy told me a long time ago.
Hmm.
There was a person that was in an insane asylum, and the way his room was positioned with bars, he could look out the window and could see traffic going by. It
Hmm.
was close enough to the highway to see traffic. So there was a point where a gentleman's car broke down because he had lost all four lugs off of one of his wheels, and he was stumped. He was befuddled. There was no internet. There was no GPS. It was back in the day. So as he's sitting there, he doesn't know how he's going to get this done.
Hmm.
The guy in the insane asylum looking out the window says, "Sir, if you simply take one lug off of the other three tires,
Then you
jack
can
it
put.
up, put three lugs on, then each tire will have three lugs, and you can get to a safe place."
Hmm.
So the guy was just like, wow. He
Didn't think
looked at
about
him, he said, "I thought you were crazy." He said, "Yeah, I'm crazy, but I'm not stupid."
it. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's the way I look at Kanye. He may be crazy, but he is not stupid. Number one, you don't become a billionaire being stupid.
Yeah.
He didn't hit the lottery.
No.
So it's not like he didn't get it through inheritance. So the
He
man,
worked.
he worked. He worked. Now, regardless of what you think about Kanye, this is not that discussion.
Yeah.
What amazes me, and this is a broader discussion, I think the black community really has to take a look at. So let me preface this, because Kayla, I want people to understand clearly. His remarks about Jewish people, they were out of line completely,
Hmm.
100%.
And then
Um,
to say I can say anti-Semitic things and no one's going to do
and
anything
no
to
one's going
me
to do
about
anything about it, which
it
was
was
just,
very uncalled for
it
and
was,
arrogant,
it was very uncalled for, very arrogant.
inappropriate.
But even at that, and we'll talk about this, I think that was contrived.
Hmm.
But I digress. So I want to make sure that people understand clearly that the conversation that Kayla and I were going to have relative to this subject, it is in no way a slight against the Jewish religion, the Jewish faith, nor people of Jewish lineage or ancestry.
Hmm.
This conversation is about the lack of respect for Black and Brown people.
Hmm.
So, what are you talking about? So, it's amazing that the hip hop culture can debase and degrade Black women,
Hmm.
can call them the B word, can objectify them, can, um, do everything that is so demeaning to a Black woman. Nobody has any problem with it. They make money off of it. They call it our culture, which I beg to disagree. I think it's our trauma.
Yeah, there's so much more to African American
So much
culture
than than
than hip hop
than
music.
hip hop music, which hip hop is tremendous. I'm a hip hop
Hmm.
head. You're a hip hop head. We love the genre. It's
But
amazing.
yeah,
The world
a
has
lot of
picked it up.
what we rap about and what we talk about are traumas that we've seen and the
Exactly.
predicaments that we were given based off of systemic racism. It has nothing
Exactly.
to do with us wanting to be in those
Right.
situations.
And to give that context, and this is what I tell people, it's like, well, you're a preacher, you're an old head, you're an OG, whatever.
Mhm.
How do you embrace or listen to the hip hop culture? And this is the way I frame it. If Pablo Picasso was still alive, or Vincent Van Gogh, some of the most world-renowned artists to ever live,
Mhm.
and you drop them off in a urban area in what's perceived to be a ghetto or an impoverished area,
Mhm.
I can't get upset at a painter painting what he or she sees.
Right.
If you've commissioned them to paint what they see, then it would be disingenuous to make it anything other than it is. So
Yep.
for me, the language of hip hop, the art, the describing the life experiences that unfortunately some black and brown people are exposed to far too much. You
Mhm.
can't get mad at the artist for portraying in words what he sees or what
As
she
the
sees.
as the saying goes, art imitates life. And
Art
so if you
imitates
want the
life.
art to change, you have to change the
Exactly.
lifestyle,
Now,
which
where
is
I
not always afforded to
now where
everyone.
I do have a bit of a problem is,
Hmm.
and I love Ricky Rose,
Hmm. When
but
when you imitate in the life that you
that you
deem
never really
is,
did.
yeah, yeah,
And
I feel you on that.
and Rick, because number one, he borrowed the name, and I'm
Hmm.
being very generous.
From yeah.
Freeway Rick Ross was one of the
Hmm.
most notorious dope dealers in LA history.
Hmm.
Did numbers of years in prison for running cocaine in
And Rick
Los
Ross was
Angeles
a
area.
correctional officer.
Rick
So
Ross was a correctional
the
officer.
irony.
I mean, go figure. And I ain't mad at you. Sell your
No.
rings. Make your songs because I love your music. But the reality
Hmm.
is, you're not really about that life.
Right.
So in that instance, I do draw a line. But there's some folks that's actually the life that they live, and they're
Yeah.
reflecting that life in their music. Unfortunately, that's why you see many of them meeting a demise early because it is their life.
Hmm.
Now it's sad to see some kids getting killed. That it really ain't about that life. They're imitating it,
Yeah.
and they're trying to be, some G's, and they're really not. But that's a whole different conversation. But I say all that to say, Kayla, what bothers me about this whole thing about Kanye, looking at his rap history, number one, Kanye ain't about that life. Kanye, Donda was a very well educated, his mother, very
Hmm.
well educated person. Kanye didn't grow up on the south side of Chicago. He grew up in a very, middle class type of environment. Very well educated, very literate young man, and
Very.
and
It,
none of that takes away from his musical genius. One of the greatest lyricists and just
and honestly,
creative
if you
minds.
really think about, his rap was more so, how do I like, how Kanye was when he first came out is
Mm.
very not
Socially
reminiscent, because
conscious.
they're reminiscent
Yeah,
of him. I would
yeah.
say it was like the Kendrick Lamar, the Wale,
Yes,
like
yes, yeah,
very conscious,
yes.
very play on words. You
You're right.
understood alliteration, you understood
Exactly.
the English language very
Yeah,
well, and it was more so poetry into rapping,
absolutely, absolutely.
and
That's
it
a
was
good way to
very
describe it.
intelligent.
Yes.
So he never came off as like,
The gangster rapper trying to pretend
exactly,
like he was about
exactly,
that life. That's never been
exactly.
him.
It was
And I
always
can
thought
appreciate that.
provoking.
I love that.
Hmm.
Early Kanye, I mean, some of the most, like you said, it's more reminiscent of Kendrick, how he
Hmm.
has impacted the culture now. I mean,
Hmm.
really culture, not imitating something, but really culture.
And
So
even
fast
if you
forward.
expressed what really happened or what you've really seen, there was a way that he could express it that was,
It was
it was
reflective of the
multidimensional. It
reality
was
he saw.
reflective, but it was still intelligent in the
Exactly.
delivery. Yeah,
And he wasn't trying to pretend like he was the gangster. I mean, that
exactly.
just hasn't been Kanye's rap.
Hmm.
But anybody that will argue with his brilliance, they're being disingenuous. I don't care how
Hmm.
you feel about Kanye. A musical icon,
Hmm.
a business icon. Um, a lot of times when black people are brilliant and they are not intimidated by people and they speak their truth, that intimidates a lot of people.
It does.
So I respect Kanye for that. I don't respect what he said, but what I have a problem with, and this is the crux of what we're getting to, Kayla, is that people get canceled for speaking out against certain people and certain groups, yet black people, their um, pain, their um, disappointment in the treatment from this country, their debasing by historical racial animus and actual racial crimes against black people,
Hmm.
um, people make money off of that. And these same industries that are clowning Kanye now, they still support the debasing of black people. Um,
Hmm.
when Adidas, I know they hated to do this, but when they got rid of Kanye, their net worth went down quite a bit. They're talking about Kanye's went down, but theirs did too. Nobody was buying
Yeah,
Adidas.
yeah.
You know,
They weren't until he collaborated and made Yeezys, and
now
that's.
this is the part where I don't think Kanye
Hmm.
is as crazy as people are trying to make him out to be.
Hmm.
Kanye tried the White Lives Matter piece.
Hmm.
disrespecting black folks wasn't enough to cancel all his contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly took a racist trope,
Yep.
put it on a shirt, and then brought Candace Owens in, who he knows
People
is
can't stand.
like different people can't, people that
Or
um,
in our community, I'm
in
sorry.
our community and people that see through her hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm.
If you know the history of Candace Owens, she came to prominence when she was at an affluent school where she was one of the few blacks,
Mm-hmm.
and she was discriminated against. She was called the N word. She was mistreated. The NAACP came to her aid, and it was major news. Now all of a sudden, she don't want to be associated with her blackness.
Mm-hmm.
So Kanye is crazy like a fox. It has been said that his contract with Adidas was not very favorable to him in the
Anyway.
scheme of what he did for Adidas and
Mm-hmm.
his network. So now, most contracts, especially entertainment, representative type contracts where you're endorsing a product, most, if not all of them, they have a morals clause.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if Kanye had a broke the contract, they could take him to court forever,
Right.
and they would probably recoup or have him hostage.
Mm-hmm.
Saw people don't. A lot of people don't realize that when Prince was alive and when he was not Prince anymore and he was the symbol,
Mm-hmm.
it was over Warner Brothers owning his mag,
Contract. Mm-hmm.
and he felt that there was a level of slavery in that. So
Mm-hmm.
he refused to be identified as Prince. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so he could own his product, own his creative licensing of who he is.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jackson went through the same thing, even though he wasn't an artist formerly known as. But you
Mm-hmm.
go through a litany of different entertainers and artists that went through that to liberate themselves from bad contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Kanye understood clearly that I've got to push the envelope to make them cancel this
Cancel
contract.
the contract. I didn't think about it that way.
Now watch this. Now Yeezy is 100%
Here.
his. 100. Adidas has no, and they can't take him to court because he didn't cancel the contract. They did.
I did not think about it that way.
So now listen. If you start to listen to Kanye on his apology tour, he's very contrite. He sounds very clear and sober eyed as to what he's talking about. I guarantee you, I don't care how crazy you think he is, the man is crazy like a fox. He understood clearly between Gap, which did not take the creative lead that he tried to bring to them. So
Right.
now Gap canceled him, Adidas canceled him.
And they were
So
just making a big deal about Gap. And
yeah.
I
So
did not
now,
think about that.
so you go from a billionaire on paper. That's his net worth. That
Right. But
doesn't
that
mean
doesn't mean the
with
money he's actually
that
bringing
doesn't
in.
mean he actually has $1 billion in his
Right.
account.
His
Kanye West is
assets.
still worth over $500 million without them. But now he has exclusive
But he has
rights to
exclusive rights to.
all of his product because they canceled him. He didn't cancel them. So they cannot take him to court and say he violated the contract because he didn't walk away from the contract. They got rid of him.
My
Now,
mind is blown right now.
so Kanye, people want to sleep on him, but he understood clearly how to get out of those contracts. And I, I can't be mad at somebody that, they say don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah.
Kanye didn't invent this game. And he is, to me, wise enough to understand that, okay, if y'all want to play this game, I don't think he's that enamored with Trump. I think he understands that Donald Trump has set a public precedent as to how to deal with the media and
Mm-hmm.
how to deal with detractors. And the fact that in their mind, there is no such thing as bad publicity.
Mm-hmm.
There's an end to a means. Um,
And as long as he gets the result and the
all he
desired
gets,
outcome.
it comes from the old adage, there's no such thing as a good publicity or bad publicity.
Mm-hmm.
Like your granddad used to tell me, even when I had some bad publicity, first thing he asked me is like,
As
did
long
they
as they spell your name right.
spell your name right? People would mispronounce our last name all the time,
Oh,
Kayla.
all the time.
Good,
Godbee. I'm
good
like,
year. I mean,
where? I'm like, where are the two O's? We learned how to spell like in
and then
kindergarten.
if you look at the spelling phonetically and separate into two
It's
syllables,
just God and
God
B.
be.
That's
Yet,
it.
but the bottom line is people don't get it wrong no more.
No, that's
But
correct.
I say all that to say that I think people just need to be, before, because the thing is you're gonna have people weighing in and losing jobs and getting all upset about something when you're talking in language of finance that many of us will never reach in our lifetime.
Right. Right.
So at that level, it's really not black and white anymore. It's green,
It's green. It's about
and
money.
it's about money. It's about money. The Kardashians, they got rich and famous just for what?
Now, I that is one family I struggle with. That is one reality show I will not watch. I cannot support because it's just like that. I Kris Jenner is another one. You
Yeah.
cannot deny her genius
Oh, she's a pimp at the
and
highest level.
how she planned out and mapped out her children's
You'll be
life and their
fine.
legacy.
She pimped them kids.
But it's just like it's tired now because we see through
Yeah,
it. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like we've watched them use black people to up their social hierarchy,
yeah,
use misappropriate black features,
yeah.
black hairstyles, black anything that was deemed as negative for us to come in. Like
They took it and monetized it.
I have naturally full lips,
Hmm.
but it's ghetto when I do it.
Right.
It's cool when Kylie does it.
Exactly.
Like
Nothing wrong
Kylie went.
with
No, listen, I'm gonna just keep that to
that.
myself.
That's an important point, Kayla, because and we have to realize as Black people just how super dope we are.
Hmm.
A lot of the things that people try to shame us out of or shame us about, even our dialect.
Hmm.
It, it- you know, who decided that the European version of the English language
Was
is
correct.
appropriate speaking? Now, even though from a communication standpoint, in order to make it in this society,
Right.
which
You
is
have to.
Eurocentric,
Hmm.
people look at how you speak. But the reality is, a lot of people try and equate articulation with intelligence.
And it's not true.
Oh my God, there's so many brilliant Black folks out here that they don't speak necessarily in a dialect or in
They
a
don't speak the
way.
Queen's English, but they know
They,
exactly what they're
exactly.
speaking
Oh,
of when they
exactly.
speak of it.
And they understand business. They understand the concepts of business.
Hmm.
They understand a lot of things that were criminalized when we did it. For
Hmm.
instance, marijuana.
Hmm.
You have different ethnicities and groups that are getting rich while we still have Black men and women sitting in
Locked
jail.
up.
And shout out to Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe
Yep.
signed not legislation, but he pardoned and commuted sentences of those that are incarcerated in the federal system that their only crime was possession of marijuana.
And I can appreciate that, but I'm gonna make a statement, and I know people are gonna disagree with me on this, but just hear me out.
Mhm.
Sis over in Russia,
Yeah, Brittany Griner.
Brittany Griner, I feel for her in the sense of I hate that that's happening to her,
Mm,
but why? You know what I'm saying? Like I don't play stupid games, win stupid prizes. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Like I think there was one thing I learned in college. We had a sociology class, and it was
Mhm.
about being egocentric and Eurocentric, and
Right.
just learning all the ways in which we can be consumed with
Mhm.
ourselves and our own culture. And Americans have that really bad, and that's one thing that globally people can't stand about America is
Yeah.
we think because we are in the free country that we can then take our freedom and do whatever we want around the
It's not
globe, and we
transferable.
cannot.
It's
It's
not.
not transferable. So when you got over there and your teammates said we didn't told you,
Hmm.
and you knew the rules, what they say, when in Rome, do as Romans do.
It's
Well,
true.
and in Russia, please do it as they do, because what you do not want to do is get locked up in another country that doesn't have the same type of rules, laws, jurisdiction, judicial system that you have no clue of.
Y-
You
You
could
know,
have.
but Kayla, that's such a good point because you have to be aware of world politics
Mm-hmm.
before you make moves.
Mm-hmm.
Because for and don't get me wrong, if WNBA players were paid equivalent and women were
Yeah.
paid equivalent of men,
They wouldn't even be
they wouldn't even
paying.
have to. They wouldn't even
Yeah,
be tempted to have to take that chance. So
yeah,
that's the first thing that has to be addressed. For
yeah.
the fact that women make 80 cent on every dollar that a man makes.
That's correct.
The other part about that is a black woman only makes like 50 cent to every dollar a man makes or less. Latino woman, the same thing. So, you got to address that. So that,
Hmm.
so that's a uniquely American problem
Yeah, it
that
is.
we is supposedly the greatest democracy on the planet should be able to fix.
Hmm.
And so gender equity and pay that would eliminate Brittany Griner and other WNBA players having to go into territories that are not the United States to play
Hmm.
basketball, to make up the shortage of what we're not paying comparable athletes.
Hmm.
And that's the problem with a pure capitalist society.
Yeah.
It's all about the dollar, and if
Hmm.
you just go on pure capitalism, um, there's not going to be equity in that. So
No.
you got to force equity in places that's uncomfortable for people. So paying women, the equivalent. If you do the same job as a man, there is absolutely no way it should be legal to pay that woman less than you pay that man.
Yeah. And so,
And I know people are gonna say, well, they don't generate the dollars that the
well,
men.
yeah, well, that was what I was getting to. It's not. I don't think that the WNBA, when it comes to instances like that, I understand it because it was the same with our tier system in track, right, at Michigan State.
Mhm.
If you played football, you were either a walk on, period, or you were full scholarship, period.
Period. Right.
If
Or no in between.
it was no in between. It was okay, you walk on, you play. If they deem that they have enough
Then
money
they get
for you, then
scholarship.
they put you on full scholarship and you don't have to worry about your education.
Right.
For track athletes, with male or female,
Mhm.
there was a percentage to your scholarship.
Right.
So maybe we had enough in the funds to say, okay, coach said we can pay for your books this year, or we
Mhm.
can do this year. It fluctuated. It depended on what, who they were trying to get from different schools,
Right.
what deals they were able to work out, what they had in the budget. But at the end of the day, track doesn't accrue the same revenue as
Right.
basketball,
Right.
football,
Mhm.
those sports. So in a sense, I do understand it because if nobody's going to the games,
Mhm. Then you don't have
how
the money.
how can they pay them the
Right.
same amount as the NBA? So
Mhm.
it's really about the consumers. Like they have to support
Mhm.
the same way they would support the NBA. And it's like, how do you do that? So for most WNBA players, their money is coming from big money is coming from playing overseas or
Right.
getting sponsorships from
Right.
companies like Nike,
But
Adidas.
but I think that's where corporate responsibility comes into play as well,
Hmm.
because you're Nike, you're Adidas,
Hmm.
your Reebok, your major athletic brands. To me, I think they should come in and just do the right thing.
Right.
Everything shouldn't have to be legislated. Sometimes it's just a
Right.
matter of what's right. So where obviously you're not going to have some athletes. However, though, I mean, Serena Williams is one of the greatest athletes, male or female, to
Hmm.
ever walk this planet.
Period.
Uh, you know, so, I mean, just period. I mean, if you look
Hmm.
at her accomplishments, what she's done, the championships, how long she dominated, at what ages she dominated, and how
Hmm.
far into her career she was one of the most dominant tennis players to ever play, male or female.
Yep.
Uh, how can you justify not paying her worth because of
Hmm.
what she's meant to the sport of tennis? So I just think you just have to have some common sense conversations, and sometimes you just got to do the right thing
And
because
you
it's the right
and then you also have to think about the type of sport, like who traditionally watches and plays tennis. Remember, the whole struggle with Venus and Serena getting into tennis is because that black kids couldn't really afford to play tennis because it was an
thing.
expensive sport in the first
Right,
place.
it's an affluent sport,
Hmm. It's an affluent sport, yeah.
just like golf.
Hmm. Hmm.
Tiger Woods, and his late father Earl Woods, exposing him to something that ordinarily young black kids are not exposed to. Yet
Exactly.
he becomes one of the greatest
Of all
golfers
time.
of all time.
Hmm.
He's one of the goats, and financially, lifted the golf to a level that you got young black kids out on golf courses now,
Yeah.
watching golf tournaments and competing at a very high level. So
Misty Copeland with ballet. It's all these
yeah,
different
different
areas
areas.
but we don't, if we don't have the exposure, because let's be real, you're not going, if you're an inner city child, if you're going to a public school, especially now, we used to have more arts programs. I know Cass did because we were that type of school, but they're they're not having performing arts. That's all extracurriculars, and with the extracurriculars is going to be better the further out you go. And so it kind of sucks because if you're forced to go to a public school, you're in an inner city environment,
Right.
you're not necessarily being exposed to that stuff.
That's true.
Basketball and football is it.
That's true. That's very true.
So
But exposure is everything.
yeah.
And I thank God, your grandfather, bless his heart, he always made sure that me and your uncle were
Hmm.
exposed to things that ordinarily, whether he could afford to or not. Um, your granddad would put me and your uncle in the car, and
Hmm.
he would start where the Renaissance Center is now. It wasn't always
Hmm.
Renaissance. That's how old I am. And drive down Jefferson and take us through all parts of the east side of Detroit, and then keep driving until it turned into Lakeshore Boulevard, where you had
Hmm.
some of the most affluent and some of the most beautiful mansions off the water, where you would go from abstract poverty to abstract riches
Hmm.
a couple of miles.
Hmm.
And your grandfather would always tell us, "Look, this is what you can do. This is what you can accomplish." And he taught us that we were never inferior to anybody. We're never second class. The melanin in our skin didn't disqualify us from anything.
Hmm.
And that means a lot.
It
And I
does.
think our parents owe it to our children, our grandchildren, to show them what they can be. And
Hmm.
don't be haters.
No,
If because your children should do a little bit better than you, and your
absolutely.
children should be doing better than that. But it's like we're regressing now.
Oh yeah, it's the constant, and I've never seen it more since now. I mean, my whole perspective has shifted on a lot of things
Hmm.
since I've become a parent, and I just didn't go through that with you all. Like you and mom never were like, you can't do that. If anything, y'all would get upset with me when I doubted myself. You'd be like, yo, what is this
Yeah.
thing, this fear and this doubt that you got going on? Because if she could do it, you could do it.
Right.
And so, I always had that in my back pocket. But
Hmm.
sometimes I'm on TikTok and just, now that the internet is such a vast place and you see people talking about their experiences, especially that black mother daughter dynamic
Right.
of if I struggle, you have to too. Same
Hmm.
thing with fathers and sons. Oh, well, I didn't have that support, so why should you?
Yeah.
Or I made it without it. And it's like the whole point is to progress. Like you're not supposed to want your kids to be worse off than what you were, so they can go through the struggle with you. No, y'all had you will have different struggles.
And I think a part of it is how you indoctrinate your child to what struggle is.
Hmm.
And that's done not by depriving them of
Right.
anything, but like I try, because me and your mom used to get into it. I don't mean like,
Yeah, yeah,
but she thought, oh, you're always trying to be the nice guy,
yeah. Hmm.
because I don't believe in corporal punishment.
Hmm.
But I believe that you reward good behavior and you withhold those rewards for bad behavior.
Hmm.
That's the best way for me to incentivize doing the right thing. Look,
Hmm.
if you do what you're supposed to do, I buy you a car. You do what you're supposed to do, I do this. If you don't do what you're supposed to do, I take the keys back.
And not to see, there's a difference. Like, I think there's a notion of spoiling your children is a
Right,
bad thing, but it's not necessarily, it's spoiling them rotten, right? Like certain things you give your child, but you, first of all, you do it based off of the level that they're at.
right,
What are you willing to lose? Because remember, you give a child something, you got to be willing to lose something,
right.
because like depending on their level of responsibility. But you can't teach them to be responsible for something if they've never
They
touched it,
never have
held it,
anything.
had it. So
That's why a lot of
yeah.
times, Kayla, that and unfortunately, a lot of young ladies in our community that, when a dope dealer or somebody it just flashes a bunch of money.
Hmm.
Well, if they've never been exposed to that,
Hmm.
then the lure of being able to shop at, Neiman Marcus and Louis
Hmm.
Vuitton and Gucci, it overrides the risk of who you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And, you know, because that's why I bought you a car at 15 before you even had your license.
Hmm.
A brand new car, not a used car, not a hoopty, but a brand new car. Because I
Hmm.
always wanted you to understand that number one, there's nothing another guy can give me that my father hasn't
Mhm.
already exposed me to. You've eaten at the best restaurants. You've met politicians and celebrities, and
Mhm.
and you're comfortable with that. So when somebody comes to you, they've got to bring more than just that superficial stuff.
Yeah.
How do you treat me? How do you value me?
But even beyond you giving me a brand new car, I distinctly remember us having a conversation because it was this. First of all, the show My Super Sweet 16 was out during the
Yep,
time I was
I
in high
remember that.
school. And so everybody was having these big, elaborate Sweet 16
Mm,
birthday parties. And I remember mentioning a party at some point, and you and mom sat me down and you said, "Would you like a car or would you like a party?" And I love that y'all did that. And I still, try to use this, even though my daughter's not even two yet. But I talk to her like
mhm,
a person. I
yeah,
don't Google Gaga because
mhm.
she
But
understands a
but
lot
me
more
and you
than what
didn't
we
do
get.
that.
Exactly. And so, I'll say, okay, mommy, I understand you want to play with this, but
Mhm.
do you want to do this or
Or
would you like to
this,
do
yeah.
that? And I'm giving you a choice so you can make a decision and you can critically think for yourself what's the best outcome. And I chose the car because I said, shoot, somebody else's birthday gonna come and I can drive to the party if I need to. I ain't gotta ask nobody for a ride.
Right,
So
exactly.
for me, it was like, okay, I didn't have a big, huge 316 party, but I ain't walking to school or catching the bus. I'm pulling,
Mhm.
I'm pulling up. Like,
Oh,
what's
and I,
going
you know,
on?
and I used to hear people, people in church and everything. They went to our church. They were,
Hmm.
oh, you just spoil her. Well, they didn't understand the dynamic of our relationship.
Yeah.
You and I would sit down and talk. Like, look,
Hmm.
Kayla, if you do A, B, C, and you hold up your end of the bargain, then this is what your dad will do for you. And if you didn't, I didn't. But
Hmm.
what it taught, what I think it did, it created a dynamic in our relationship to where there was a level of trust. Because if I
Hmm.
told you I would do it, I would.
You're
I
right.
wouldn't just promise you stuff and then you get the
And
good
then never
grades,
do it. Yeah.
or you do what you're supposed to do and then I don't do it.
Hmm.
So number one, that's a part of the value proposition. You got to
And
be
you
honest
know
with your
what?
kids.
I think that was the thing that people miss because I used to
Mhm,
hear people say things at
mhm.
church too,
Yeah,
but I always keep it G.
yeah,
Everybody ain't got to know that you know
right.
what they be saying about you. And I do remember like at the time being like, dang, like why do y'all feel that way? But I'm
Hmm.
like, y'all are missing the part where I'm bringing home A's and B's. Y'all
Right.
are missing the part where
Going to track practice and
I go
running
to track
track.
practice and I'm becoming all state and I'm
Mhm.
doing like sometimes it was above and beyond and not saying that kids need a pat on the back for everything that they do because I don't believe you should always get rewarded for doing what you're supposed to do. I was
Mhm.
supposed to get good grades,
Right,
right? But again, you didn't see the if I didn't do
right. What happened?
like
Right.
I think a lot of people never understood our family dynamic
Mhm.
because on the other hand with mom, there was no Saturday plans if I did not have my room clean to have the
Right.
bathroom clean.
Exactly. You wasn't going nowhere.
Period. I wasn't going anywhere. I don't care how many plans I made. I don't care how many people I told
Mhm.
I was going to do something. If my stuff wasn't clean and
You wasn't going nowhere.
typical black mother,
Mhm.
gospel music or Anita Baker playing
On
playing
Saturday
early in the
morning.
morning on Saturday morning, and if I did not have that stuff done, I was not going anywhere. And there was
That's
no
true.
if ands or buts. There was no whining tantrums falling
Right.
out. I
It
wasn't
just wasn't
going.
going to happen. Right. And that,
So,
but I
um,
think that's an important point because you look at the work ethic of people nowadays.
mhm,
You look at people's loyalty. They just go, wherever the dollar takes them, and every dollar number one ain't a good dollar. You know,
mhm,
some things you got to compromise yourself for to even be in those spaces and positions.
mhm,
To me, I think that's what I appreciate about our relationship and how your mom and I raised you.
mhm.
It was to you respect people.
Yeah.
You respect their accomplishment, but hey, we only serve one God. You ain't making a God out of people.
You put your pants on like I do, don't you?
Like I
All
do
right.
every day,
Okay.
every
Okay.
day,
You gotta eat and drink to stay alive, don't you? All right.
every day.
Okay. You
You
got
know,
all right.
and that's important because I think something else that this social media environment has created is just a lot of idolization of other people, a lot of
Hmm.
envy of other people and
Hmm.
what they've rented. I mean, what they put pictures on.
Not what they rented. Help
Mhm.
us, Lord.
But a lot of people they losing their minds about stuff. They see somebody in a Bentley or a Rolls Royce.
Hmm.
Number one, a lot of these cats they walking up to somebody else's Bentley taking a picture, or you can rent those things. And I don't begrudge anybody that does that, but
Yeah,
it's intellectually dishonest.
it is.
and it sets an
And
unrealistic
it sets a
expectation.
standard that that's the only, first of all,
That's the
you
only
know,
measure of success.
yes, and we have these conversations all the time, and I'm so glad that even with my husband, we just got off the phone prior to us getting on here, and we have those daily check-ins and say, okay, we got this accomplished, we did this. We are not the richest couple,
Mm,
but we're building on something,
right.
and all of our needs are met.
Hmm.
We're not lacking for anything. We both have, relatively new vehicles. They're not Bentleys,
Hmm.
but they between 2018 and 2022. You know what I'm saying? They're running fine. Oil
Hmm.
changes. We ain't, it's it's like people, we have nothing or everything, and it's like
Right.
it shouldn't be that way. You have
Exactly.
CEOs of companies that drive Priuses because it's a smart investment. We are always thinking about what something looks like it costs versus
Hmm.
what something actually, the value of something. The value of a Toyota Camry can go way longer
Hmm.
because you can put miles on that thing until
Right.
the thing ain't thinking no more. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? and
Exactly.
and it's gonna take you a good 10 years. That's an investment.
But you know what was the biggest eye opener for me? I never will forget this. And I think I mentioned this in a sermon years ago. But when I was chief of police, obviously, we got major sports teams: Detroit
Mm-hmm.
Lions,
Mm-hmm.
Red Wings, Tigers.
Mm-hmm.
I go to any game I want because I'm in charge of, security for
Mm-hmm.
the city, season tickets. I never will forget. There's a place where they would allow me to park, where the
Yep.
players park as well. Lamborghinis,
Yep.
Bentleys. Every kind of exotic vehicle you can think of. The interest that me and you used to go in, there was a
Mm-hmm.
Ford Escape, just like the one I bought you, parked there.
Yep.
The Ford Escape belonged to Bill Ford Jr., the one
Owner of
that
the
was
team
writing checks for everybody
who
that was
had the
parking all
Lamborghinis.
these lost cars, these Lamborghinis that owned the stadium that they was playing in, that paid their salaries. And to me, that was the biggest um, I think visual sermon I've ever experienced. God showed me in my life. You know, it's not about what you possess;
Mm-hmm.
it's about what you do with what you possess.
And like,
Because just because you own,
yeah.
because you have certain things, it doesn't mean that you're really making impact
Mm-hmm.
or that you're really doing something. Like John Wooden, I think, used to say, "Never mistake activity for progress."
Yep.
Just because somebody's active and doing something don't mean they're going nowhere.
And I'm not
Just
saying like don't like
oh
nice
no,
things. You know
exactly.
what I'm saying? Like
That's not the
have
point.
nice things, but like Google Warren Buffett. Look at how he dressed.
I ain't never
You
seen
don't
Bill.
know what he got on.
Never seen him with Gucci on.
You
Not that
don't
he
know
don't.
what, and not that he don't have Gucci, but it
Yeah.
ain't gonna have and my,
Mhm.
again, fashion is a preference.
Right. Right.
But
But it should not be a statement as to who
exactly.
you are.
Exactly.
And I think that's the thing that we've got become so materialistic. And I don't get me wrong, people call me Mr. Ferragamo. I love
Mm-hmm.
Ferragamos, but that ain't my worth.
Yeah.
I felt like, I was the bomb diggity when I was wearing Johnston and Murphy's. It's a mentality.
Yeah.
I like these things. I work hard. I think I've earned an opportunity to wear what I want, but
Absolutely.
that's not what makes you.
And
And
it's a difference between paying for something and being able to afford it. If you can afford it, you can replace it.
that's true. That's true. If you can't replace it, you probably can't afford it. That's
I keep hearing a rule and I'm trying to get to this place, but if you can't pay for it three times over, you can't afford
you
it.
can't afford it. And that is such a good point. It's probably a lot of stuff I got in my closet I can't afford.
Right, right. Like that's what it makes me think about
Very,
myself. I'm narrowing
very.
down on a lot of stuff, but it's just making me think like even there was, it's funny, I know you don't watch this show, but
Mhm.
there's a show called Married to Medicine. It comes on Bravo, Andy Cohen,
Like one of the
infamous
doctors is
Andy
from
Cohen.
here, right? Or one of the persons
Toya.
married.
Toya is from Detroit. Her
Yeah.
husband is Dr. Eugene. And
Mhm. Yeah.
Toya is interesting. She's an interesting personality. She's been on there for a while. And Quad is one of the castmates who's no longer married, but she's
Mhm.
still on the show. And there was a debate that came up because she has this beautiful, like $2 million home. She furnished it
Mhm.
fully,
Right.
and some of the doctors was like, well, I'm a doctor, and I know the checks we get on this show. It was like they were doubting where she
Mhm.
got her money from,
Right.
and they were completely discounting the fact. And this
Mhm.
goes to let you know you can't look at what people have.
Right.
Because first of all, and Bishop Godbee says this all the
Mm,
time, don't mess around and try and keep up with me because somebody
right.
might have blessed me with something that
That you don't know about.
I ain't
Right,
even go pay for.
right,
And
right.
so I'm walking around with something that you want and you
Hmm.
going breaking your neck to buy it and
And
it's
somebody
not
sold that into
it,
me.
that's somebody exactly. And so, she explained number one,
Mm,
she's the only one that doesn't have children. She just
right.
adopted, well, not adopted, but she took in her nephew because her
Hmm.
brother passed.
Oh wow.
She's divorced. We don't know what she got from the divorce.
Mm,
She's, had jobs. You get sponsorships. You have so many followers on social
mm,
media. People will pay you $6,000-$7,000 a month
yeah,
to
it's true.
to just promote stuff. If you're gonna have a couple million people watching you every Sunday,
Good point.
she was like, when I got out of college and stuff, I was a single woman. I didn't have children and responsibility. I'm not sending kids to college.
Right.
She may have invested well. We don't know. But
Oh,
it's just funny how people will compare what they got going on to somebody else and say, well, there's no way you can afford that. I'm like, you're also a doctor and you probably have debt
yeah.
from being
From
in
being
medical
in medical
school.
school. You know, it reminds me of the saying, don't let your food get cold looking at what's on my plate. And the thing is, people get so consumed about what you do and how you do it,
Hmm.
or vice versa. Run
Hmm.
your race, and
Yep.
that's the thing I think we miss a lot of times. Just run your race. Are you
Yep.
happy? Are you satisfied? Are you living at a level that you're comfortable? I
Hmm.
mean, I am so far from worrying about how other people spend their money. It take what your granddad used to say, it take 24 hours a day,
7 days a
7 days a
week
week,
to mind my own business.
365 days a year to mind my own business. Every nanosecond I take out of mind of my business to mind yours, mine goes lacking. So I
Lacking.
just try, stay in my lane, run my
Hmm.
race. Thank God for what He's done for me. Thank God for my family.
Hmm.
Every day time I can pay a bill or pay it on time. Just thank God for that.
Hmm.
Stay focused on that because you can get so distracted,
Yeah.
by what everybody else is doing, and you just don't know their story.
Yep.
Because
You
it,
don't
it
know what they went through. You don't know what family member passed, and they had insurance, and they would give anything to have that family
they would
member
give
back.
that $1 million, $500,000 insurance policy back to get their mother back, to get their
Hmm.
father back. So while you're envying somebody for what they have, you don't know
Wonder
what
what
they
they
went
lost,
through to
what they
get
had
it.
to go through to get it.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, we got that bad though.
Got
Pete,
it
that's
bad.
it's human nature, and we have to fight
Mhm.
it every
I
day.
think that's the thing that I don't know. I have faith in people because I got faith in God that
Hmm.
things are going to self correct.
Hmm.
I just don't know when though, because social media has made us such a selfish society.
Yeah.
Everything is about getting the bag and I, me, and mine, cash, clothes, and cars.
Hmm.
Travel. All those things are wonderful things. I don't begrudge anybody that does it.
Hmm.
But it promotes a lifestyle that some people. Matter of fact, they may travel to Belize, they may
Hmm.
travel to Bora Bora, but they decide they want to drive a Prius.
Hmm.
Where you
Yep.
decide you want to drive a Bentley,
Or you got some people who live in RVs full time, traveling the country
travel
because that's what
country.
they want to do.
But that's the point. Do what you want to do. Do what makes
Hmm.
you happy. Like quote, I don't know why your granddaddy spirit just rising up in me. But what you eat don't make me
Don't
go
make
to the bathroom.
at
So,
all,
so
at all.
just saying, don't want to get too gross because your granddaddy
No,
had a more colorful way of
he
saying.
did. Yeah, he's very colorful. I miss that guy.
Oh Lord,
Um,
things are
yeah.
turning into him though. It was just crazy. Like I look in the
Mm.
mirror and I see Dad now. I'm like, because I never thought I looked like Dad. I always thought I looked like Mom.
I always thought you did too until that first time you shaved your mustache and I lost my mind. I said, "What in the world, y'all?" I was like 7 years, 6 or 7, maybe
That was
7,
crazy.
and we had company at the house, and this man could not figure out why I was crying. He was like, "It's your dad, it's me," and I was like, "No, it's
I'm my
not.
dad.
No, it's not." And but I will say this publicly: don't you ever go back to just a mustache, or I will fight you.
But
Okay?
cutting this off.
Yep. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Thank you.
No, I'm stuck with this. Only
Good.
thing though, just for men, it's getting expensive. I'm gonna have to go gray.
That's fine.
But I think once I go gray, I'm gonna do the whole thing though.
The whole beard.
The
Okay.
whole beard.
All
Yeah.
right. Do you then? Do you?
In fact, Bishop Oldies, he's really inspired me. You know the
He's
guy.
inspiring.
I love him and his wife. They're just so cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way to age.
Yeah.
Gracefully and
Yep.
enjoy life. So,
We out here trying, man. We out here trying.
so what's some of the biggest lessons you're learning as a mother now? You're 2 years into the game now.
Almost 2 years
Almost
into
two
the game.
years.
Um, being a mother, because I'm not gonna hold you up when I tell you God is kicking my butt. But not in the worst way. I'm appreciative of it because I
Mhm.
remember distinctly before I ever thought about having kids. I'm like, oh, like I just can't understand why anybody would want to be a single mom
Mhm.
or like not a single mom. I'm sorry, a stay at home
Stay
mom.
at home mom,
And I'm
right?
like, oh, why don't you just want to go work and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
And don't get me wrong, I still want to go work. I still don't have the capacity, and I realize that's a me thing
Mhm.
to just sit at home and be a mom. I don't think I'm at that place yet. I think I have too much purpose.
Yeah.
Like my purpose is outside of that. Some people are purpose to do that with their children, and it's not for me. But being a mother is a 24/7 job.
Yep.
Period. There's a
And
twenty-four
men
seven
will never
job.
understand.
Nope.
Men will never understand
Nope.
what it is to be a mother. They just
No.
can't.
It's 24/7. There are no breaks. And so I understand now how being a stay-at-home mom can totally be taxing because you're going to worry about your child,
Yeah.
right? Like that's this person has literally come from you.
Mhm.
Not to mention the hormonal changes that happen after
Mhm.
you have a child, during the pregnancy, after the pregnancy, the postpartum depression, the feelings of you looking different and hair falling. Like there's all these things that come with it again that men don't
Yeah.
understand. And it's not to say that
You can't
because
empathize.
yeah,
Yeah.
like my husband is a wonderful father.
Mhm.
He still will never understand the level of sacrifice it is to be a mother because
Mhm.
typically men know, oh, mom's gonna be there. That's why it's the saying. And I used to think it was just for like uncommitted couples, but it's
Mhm.
not true. Mama's baby, daddy maybe
Mhm.
is like really
That's more
a
than
thing.
genetics.
It's
Right.
more
Yeah.
than genetics. It's a
It's a mentality.
yeah, it's a presence. It's like it's
Mhm.
something that in I guess it isn't for everybody because
Mhm.
we do have some mothers that don't really take to it and they harm their children and all these other things. But also,
Right.
even I empathize in that sense because I think there's something
Mhm.
that didn't completely switch with all these hormonal changes. And
Right.
so it's like you have to. I think we need to take a deeper look at what's going on with moms as they are going through these
That's
different
true.
stressors. Because
That's
I
true.
couldn't. I mean, like in a sense, I feel like I've been a single mom,
Mhm.
but not to the discredit of my husband.
Oh,
Like
right.
he's
Right.
he's been present,
Mhm.
but with him being in basic training and then now being deployed, most of the time I am my child's person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like she knows that if grandma and granddaddy come visit, mom, she takes me to daycare, she does this, she does that.
Mhm.
When she knows at the end of the day, it's her and I
Yeah. Yeah.
because that's all she knows. I'm not saying that's always going to be like that, but it's just the
Right.
nature of my husband's job. That's
Mhm.
all she knows. And so I get it when sometimes she's just like super clingy because she's like, "You're my person."
Right.
I see daddy sometimes on
Mhm.
FaceTime. I know that he's my daddy, but you're right here. Like it's
All
you.
the time.
And
Mhm.
so I will say motherhood, and some people don't. I don't think being a mom is for everybody. I will say that
Yeah. Lord
because
knows.
there's a level of selflessness that you
Mhm.
absolutely have to have. You
Yeah.
literally it's just like I don't know, I feel like moms are somewhat like how like a not a god in a sense,
Right.
but like how God died for the church. You have to,
Mhm.
and how we have to die to ourselves
Yeah.
daily.
Yeah.
That's what being a mom is.
To
You
be a
have
good
to
mother, absolutely. Mhm.
you have to die to yourself daily.
Mhm.
Like, oh, I want to do this right here, right now.
Right.
Baby comes first. Oh, I
Mhm.
need to get this done. Child comes first to the
Mhm.
detriment of our careers.
Right.
To and not saying that we regret having our kids, not by any means. I wouldn't trade Kennedy for the world. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
still can't imagine. I'm like, dang, it's only been 2 years, but I feel
She's
like
been
she's
around
been here
forever.
forever.
Right.
And but you have to absolutely be selfless, and
Mhm.
it triggers something in you to kind of be like, okay, like you just look at everything different. You
Yeah,
you
that's
start to
true.
take care of people outside of your child
Mhm.
different because it's like I know how I would want to be treated in this
Yep.
moment. Um, even with daycare, like my daycare provider is amazing and she treats Kennedy like her own child. And when she's even having an off day,
Mm-hmm.
I can empathize because both of our husbands are serving in the
Right.
military and there's just stuff that we get thrown into that we don't plan on. It's not something we asked for necessarily. It's the nature of the job. And so like how do you pivot? It's always about pivoting, staying
Mm-hmm.
prepared. Um if you want to procrastinate, being a mama is going to be hell for you. If you can prepare as much as possible, if you can have the bottles prepared,
It's true.
the meal already thought of, it's going to
Mm-hmm.
make it that much easier. I feel like it's made me more ADHD for sure because I'm always cleaning. I'm always cleaning something. The laundry is always going. Something's always getting washed, vacuum. But it's like I don't know. It's a rewarding job for sure. It's something that I wouldn't trade for the world, but it's definitely something selfless and
But it's been a joy to watch you, kind of mature into motherhood.
hmm
Just to watch you and Kennedy, because it reminds me so much of your mom and you
hmm
and the
hmm
relationship. It is, it's like watching you grow up all over again.
yeah.
But to see that maternal instinct kick in, to see you, really just kind of grow up and prioritize Kennedy and you know, put her life, ahead of yours.
hmm
It makes a dad proud. It really does.
yeah.
And please understand, there's nothing we can do to ever understand the true commitment of a mother,
Yeah.
what a mother means in your child's life. So I say this in close
hmm
as we get ready to close, Kayla, and I want you to have some final comments as well. These are very challenging times that we're in. Some amazingly challenging things on the ballot coming up for people to think about and vote for. And
hmm
if I could briefly just disabuse people of this one notion, you can be pro life and pro choice at the same time. So,
hmm
what do you mean by that? I consider myself pro life. I've grown to understand that life is precious, life is valuable, and if there's any way to preserve the life of the child, you do that. But by the same token, I also have matured to understand that it is irresponsible and it is selfish and it is arrogant for a man to tell a woman what she can do, should do with her
With her
body.
body. hmm
That is between her, her health care provider, and her God. You are not her God. So all these men making decisions for women, you can have an opinion. You can be pro life.
Or you can wrap it up.
You wrap it up.
You can do
You
that
know,
too.
or if you're a woman that's pro life, then
hmm
you live by that, eat it. But you can't make other people live by your moral code and ethos. So
hmm
this is a very, very important election cycle. We should have more nuanced conversations about these things.
Yeah.
It's not an either or; it's a both.
It's not. It's so many gray areas because there
And
is
it's
the
so
level
complicated.
of there's the
And I'll give
level
you a
of abuse,
and I'll give you for instance when we lost our child in 2003.
hmm
They had to do a partial DNC for your mom to save her life.
hmm
She wouldn't be here today if it were not for that.
And
If
I
we were
think
under
men don't
today's
realize
laws,
that.
she would have died and bled to death.
Yep.
So we've got to be very, very careful how we politicize these issues and the issues of a woman's choice to do with her body
hmm
and have autonomy over her body and make the choices that are best for her and her child and her health. That's the bottom line. The
Yeah.
government should not be involved in that decision. That's between a woman and her doctor. There's
Yeah.
not a man on earth that should have any opinion about what a woman does with her body.
Yeah.
Period. That's
Yep.
all. Kayla, I enjoyed our Chiefs chat.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Look forward to us doing this again soon. The greatest co-host and super producer on the planet, Kayla Simone
I
Grigsby.
I try.
Yeah, you do a great job. And you happen to be my granddaughter's mama. And to my son, Cam, love you, man. Can't wait to see you getting close to Thanksgiving time. But God bless you all. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Chiefs Chat. We'll be back to you real soon with another broadcast. You can catch us on Facebook. You can catch us on YouTube. You can catch us on
LinkedIn,
LinkedIn.
Twitter.
All of those platforms will be streaming live. God bless you all. Love you. And we'll see you
Bye
all next
guys.
time. Bye bye.